Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In this one short revision, we will complete the entire chapter Understanding the Weather in a simple and easy way. We will understand how weather is measured, learn about weather instruments, weather stations, and finally see how weather forecasts help us in our daily lives. So, let's get started. Every day before going to school, we unknowingly check the weather. If it's cold, we wear a sweater. If it's raining, we carry an umbrella. If it's hot, we wear light cotton clothes. Why do we change our clothes? Because the weather keeps changing and our body senses these changes. So, what exactly is weather? Weather is the state of the Earth's atmosphere at a particular place and time. Notice the two important words here, particular time and particular place. If it's raining in Kochi today, it doesn't mean it's raining in Delhi. Similarly, the weather in the same place can be different tomorrow. So, weather always changes with time and place. Now, what is the atmosphere? In the definition of weather, they mentioned the word atmosphere. So, what is the atmosphere? The atmosphere is simply the layer of gases surrounding the earth. They call these gases air. You can imagine the atmosphere like a cake with different layers. Each layer has its own importance, but here we only need to remember one layer, troposphere. The troposphere is the lowest layer of the atmosphere. This is where humans live, plants and animals live, and almost all weather phenomena occur. The troposphere extends from about 6 km to 18 km above the Earth's surface. It is thinner near the poles because cold air contracts, and it is thicker in the tropical regions because warm air expands. You will study the other layers of the atmosphere in your science classes. So remember, almost all weather happens in the troposphere. And when someone asks, how is the weather today? We usually reply using words like hot, cold, cloudy, rainy, windy, etc. These words describe different elements of weather. And there are 5 elements of weather. Let's remember them one by one. Temperature tells us how hot or cold the atmosphere is. Precipitation means any form of water falling from the sky such as rain, snow, sleet or hail. Atmospheric pressure is the weight of the air above us. Wind is the movement of air including its speed and direction. Humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the air. These 5 elements together describe the weather at any place. And we need a common standard to measure weather. Let's say Krishnan lives in Chennai while Amir lives in Kashmir. Krishnan says it's very cold here today, but Amir may not understand how cold it is actually. For Krishnan, 20 degrees Celsius may feel cold, but for Amir, it may feel pleasant. So, simply saying it is cold is not enough. We need a common standard. And the same idea applies to rainfall, wind, humidity and atmospheric pressure. That's why scientists measure every element using standard instruments. This allows everyone to understand and compare weather accurately. So, weather is measured using common standards so people everywhere understand the same weather conditions. Can weather information help us before something happens? Yes. If we know that heavy rain is expected, we can carry an umbrella. If a storm is coming, people can stay indoors. If farmers know rain is expected, they can plan their farming activities. So, accurate weather measurements help people make better decisions. This is why measuring weather is so important. And long before modern instruments were invented, people carefully observed nature. They noticed that birds sometimes fly low before rain, ants carry their eggs to safer places, squirrels gather nuts, frogs croak loudly, and pine cones open and close depending on humidity. By observing these natural signs, people predicted changes in weather. Even today, in many parts of India, traditional methods are still used, especially to predict the arrival of the monsoon. This knowledge has been passed from one generation to the next. Today, weather prediction is much more scientific. Scientists carefully measure different weather elements using special instruments. They collect weather data and study it to predict how the weather may change in the coming hours, days, or even weeks. The scientific study of weather and its changes is called meteorology. Meteorology forms the basis of weather forecasting. And now that we know that what weather is and why we measure it, let's move to the first weather instrument, the thermometer, which measures temperature. Temperature simply tells us how hot or how cold the atmosphere is. Every day we experience changes in temperature. On a hot summer afternoon, the temperature is high. On a cold winter morning, the temperature is low. But instead of saying today is very hot or today is very cold, scientists use instruments to measure temperature accurately. The instrument used to measure temperature is called a thermometer. And you already learnt in class 6 science about different thermometers. There are clinical thermometer and laboratory thermometer. And you also learnt two important temperature scales. The first is the Celsius scale written as C. The second is the Fahrenheit scale written as F. For example, 15 degrees Celsius is equal to 59 degree Fahrenheit. Just remember that temperature can be expressed using these two scales. And not all thermometers work in the same way. Some thermometers simply measure the temperature of the surroundings, which is called the ambient temperature. Others can record the highest temperature and the lowest temperature during an entire day. Earlier, many thermometers used a colored liquid that expanded when the temperature increased. Nowadays, digital thermometers are becoming more common because they are more precise and can record more data. And scientists don't just record temperature once and forget. Daily temperature records help them study weather patterns. From these readings, they calculate two important values. The first is the range of temperature. It tells us the difference between the highest and lowest temperature during a particular period, that is usually one day. So, range of temperature is equal to maximum temperature minus minimum temperature. For example, let's say highest temperature of the day is 36 degrees Celsius and the lowest temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. So, the range of temperature is equal to 36 degrees Celsius minus 18 degrees Celsius. So, the difference between the highest and lowest temperature is 18 degrees Celsius. The second is the mean daily temperature. This tells us the average temperature of the day. Its formula is mean daily temperature is equal to maximum temperature plus minimum temperature divided by 2. So, the mean daily temperature is equal to 36 degrees Celsius plus 18 degrees Celsius divided by 2. So, the mean daily temperature, that is the average temperature of the day, is 27 degrees Celsius. These two terms are important because they are commonly asked in exams. And now the second element of weather, precipitation. You already know that precipitation means any form of water that falls from the sky. It includes rain, snow, sleet and hail. But how do scientists know whether a place received 5 mm or 30 mm of rainfall? For that, they use a special instrument called a rain gauge. The rain gauge has three important parts. At the top, there is a collecting funnel. When it rains, the rainwater falls into this funnel. The water then collects inside a measuring tube or cylinder. Along the side, there is a measuring scale, and the scale tells us how much rainwater has been collected. So, it is a very simple instrument, but it helps scientists measure rainfall accurately. Now, let's see how is rainfall measured. Suppose after one day's rain, the water collected reaches the 5 mm mark on the measuring scale. Then we say that the area received 5 mm of rainfall. If the water reaches 30 mm, then the rainfall is 30 mm. So remember, rainfall is always measured in millimeters, that is mm. Atmospheric pressure. Have you ever noticed that before a thunderstorm the weather sometimes feels heavy or uncomfortable? This happens because of changes in atmospheric pressure. So, what is atmospheric pressure? It is simply the pressure exerted by the weight of the air above and around us. Although we cannot see air, it has weight, and that weight presses on the Earth's surface all the time. And atmospheric pressure is higher near the sea coast and lower as we move up into the mountains. Why? As we climb a mountain, the air becomes thinner. This means there is less air pressing down and also less oxygen available to breathe. That's why people sometimes feel breathless, dizzy or tired at high altitudes. So remember, high altitude means lower atmospheric pressure. Does pressure always remain high near the plains? No. Sometimes the atmospheric pressure drops suddenly. Meteorologists call this a depression or low pressure system. If it becomes stronger, it can develop into a storm or even a cyclone. That's why measuring atmospheric pressure is very important for weather forecasting. And the instrument used to measure atmospheric pressure is called a barometer. And the reading is generally shown in millibars, written as MB. And the normal atmospheric pressure near the sea coast is about 1013 MB. If the pressure falls below 1000 MB, it indicates a depression. Acclimatization. People traveling to high mountains are advised to take breaks on the way. This allows the body to acclimatize, which means adjusting to the new conditions. At high altitude, the air is thinner and contains less oxygen because the atmospheric pressure is much lower. As a result, people may feel breathless, dizzy or tired. By resting for some time, the body gradually adjusts to these conditions, making it easier to continue the journey. This process is called acclimatization. Our army personnel serving at places like Kardungla in Ladakh, which is over 5,600 meters above sea level, also undergo acclimatization because the atmospheric pressure there is only about 650 MB, which is much lower than the normal pressure. That is why acclimatization is so important at high altitudes. Now, let's move to the fourth weather element, wind. Wind is the movement of air from areas of high pressure to areas of low pressure. Whenever we describe wind, we mainly look at two things, its speed and its direction. Wind plays an important role in our daily life. Its speed and direction help in weather forecasting. Pilots and sailors depend on wind information for safe travel. Farmers also observe the wind direction because it helps them predict whether rain will come or not. So, how do we know the direction in which the wind is blowing? We use a wind vane, also called a weather vane. It has a pointer at one end and a tail at the other end. When the wind blows, the tail is pushed, causing the pointer to turn. The pointer then shows the direction of the wind. Even a light breeze can make the wind vane respond. And you might have seen a long cloth tube at airports. This is called a windsock. It helps pilots know the direction of the wind during the takeoff and landing. And similar windsocks are used in industries that releases ash or gases. And knowing the direction of the wind is useful, but we also need to know how fast it is blowing. For this, we use an anemometer. It has 3 or 4 cups attached to a vertical shaft. When the wind blows, the cups rotate, and the stronger the wind, the faster they spin. A meter counts these rotations and calculates the wind speed in kilometers per hour. And the last weather element, humidity. Humidity is the amount of water vapor present in the air. It also depends on factors such as temperature, wind, pressure and location. Remember what you learnt in class 6 science? When water evaporates, it produces a cooling effect. But if the air already contains a lot of water vapor, evaporation becomes slower. That is why clothes take longer to dry on a humid or rainy day. Humidity is measured as relative humidity. 0% means air contains no water vapor, and 100% means the air is completely saturated with water vapor. And usually 20 to 40% indicates dry weather and 60 to 80% indicates humid weather. And the instrument used to measure humidity is called a hygrometer. Humidity measurements are useful not only for weather forecasting but also in places like food processing industries and museums where humidity is controlled to protect valuable exhibits. So now we have learnt all 5 elements of weather and the instruments used to measure them. But here is an interesting question. We use a thermometer for temperature, a rain gauge for rainfall, a barometer for pressure, an anemometer for wind, and a hygrometer for humidity. Do scientists keep all these instruments separately? No, they bring them together at one place called a weather station. A weather station is a place where different weather instruments are installed together. These instruments measure different elements of weather at regular intervals. The readings collected from them help scientists to monitor the weather, prepare weather maps, and forecast future weather. So, instead of depending on one instrument, a weather station collects complete weather information from several instruments at the same place. Today, many weather stations work automatically. These are called automated weather stations or AWS. An AWS is a self-operating system. It uses different sensors to measure weather elements without the need for continuous human observation. An AWS records temperature, humidity, wind speed, wind direction, precipitation, and atmospheric pressure. All this data is collected automatically and sent for analysis. Because the AWS provides accurate and timely weather information, it is widely used in many fields. It is used in agriculture, aviation, navigation, and environmental monitoring. In all these fields, quick and accurate weather information is very important. For example, in 2023, the National Disaster Management Authority installed an automated weather station at a glacial lake in Sikkim. It is located at an altitude of more than 4,800 meters above sea level. Its purpose is to provide early information about upcoming weather conditions, helping authorities prepare in advance. Now, let's see how weather is actually predicted. Meteorologists collect weather data from different instruments over a long period, and they carefully study this data and use scientific methods to predict future weather. Instead of guessing, they analyze recorded information before making a weather forecast. Today, accurate weather prediction has become even more important because climate change has made extreme weather events more frequent. These include droughts, floods, and cyclones. Early prediction helps people prepare before these events occur. The India Meteorological Department, that is IMD, issues weather warnings (SNAP) to inform people about different weather conditions. These warnings help people understand how serious the weather situation is and what action they may need to take. Weather forecasts are useful in many real-life situations. For example, if stormy weather is expected at sea, fishermen are warned not to go out in their boats. If a cyclone is approaching, people living in coastal areas may be evacuated to safer places. Forecasts also help local governments mobilize resources and prepare for disasters before they happen. So, weather prediction is not just about knowing whether it will rain tomorrow or not. It also helps save lives and reduce damage. So that's the complete chapter, Understanding the Weather. If you remember the 5 elements of weather, the 6 instruments, and understand how weather stations and meteorologists work, you have covered all the important NCERT concepts from this chapter. In the next chapter, we will learn how weather is connected to climate and why different parts of India experience different climatic conditions. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.